Bienvenidos, welcome, and gracias for joining us for more coverage of the Phoenix Film Festival's International and Sci-Fi Horror Film Festival sub-branch, where we focus on the scariest stuff here at PFF. And I'm joined by Brian Ronalds, man. This is a guy who just recently did a documentary called The Final Resolution. Are we living in the end times, my friend?
You know what? There's a lot to be said for that. We could be. Yeah. I mean, there was this little book written a long time ago called the Holy Bible, and they talked about all this weird stuff that's going to happen at the end of times.
That was all drilled into my brain as a kid, man.
Yeah, I think it drilled into a lot of our brains.
Yeah.
But watching it come into reality is just kind of, is it like chance or coincidence or prophecy? And that's what the documentary is all about. Yeah.
And so you basically, as opposed to going to big names and stuff like that, you kind of approach the everyday man and, various walks of life to kind of get their thoughts on these times that we live in and how frightening and actually genuinely scary they are, right?
You know what? That's exactly true. I started doing narratives from Nether Beast Incorporated, doing like a horror comedy about vampires in the office place. Yeah. Then went to the graves.
Yeah. Polito.
Yeah, Brian Polito.
Yeah. He's been on the show before.
Yeah. Talking about like ghosts and whatnot. But this was more of like, taking an in-depth examination into the United Nations Security Council Resolution 666 and the parallels it has with Revelations 13, 16 through 18. So
can you spout that verse for us?
Can I spout that verse? I totally can, but I really want you to educate yourselves.
Yeah, go out and look for it yourselves, guys.
So yeah, it's getting ready to screen. This is actually our world premiere here at the Phoenix Film Festival. It kind of has a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
And
I sense a personal connection with this project, man.
Yeah, you know what? My son's grandfather came to me with this idea that he's been marinating on since the 90s. The United Nations Security Council resolutions has been coming out since the early 40s, starting at number 1. They never repeat numbers, and then all the way up until 1990. 666 comes about.
Very oddly timed, right?
Yeah, very oddly timed, and some of the things that they talk about in the Bible, about the number 666 and end times is, it's something to be aware about.
Yeah. So do you approach it from a position of neutrality, from or an agnostic viewpoint, or like a full-on I believe mentality? Where do you stand, or are you keen to divulge that?
Well, I was raised by a Jewish father and a Catholic mother. So the guilt weighed heavy in my family. I'm just kidding. No, you know what? I'm a very spiritual person. But if I were to weigh one side or the other, it would really not make for a very interesting documentary. So I kind of leave the question out there as far as did this happen on purpose? It was predetermined? Or is this just a chance that this okay, so now we're at number 666 in the United Nations Security Council resolutions, or was it all planned? And if it was all planned, then there's a huger, deeper meaning to this whole thing. And I'm just bringing the subject to the surface.
Nice.
Yeah, and thanks to James Na, my executive producer, I was able to do that.
Cool. So then, as opposed to connecting the dots, you more so pose the questions and make the viewer just kind of determine for themselves?
It's exactly true. So, when I first started doing the movie, I was just trying to find where I could really dig my teeth into. What portion of the movie can I really start asking questions? And I thought, what better way to ask any question than to kind of do it like a campfire type of situation.
Cool.
And who doesn't like to talk about, if you were to go down the road and you turned right instead of left, and you turned right and met your wife, and now you've been married for 50 years. Yeah. What happened if you turned left? Would you have still met that woman?
These are the choices we make, right?
These are the choices we make.
That whole what-if mentality. So how long did you work on this for?
So it took me a couple of years to direct. Gathering information. You start with this idea of how you think your documentary is going to be, and then it just rears off way to the left, and you're like, it writes itself. So opposed to doing narratives where I have a script and I have to stick to my day-to-day schedule, this was just kind of let's examine this, and when we're done, we're done. So.
Well, they say the good ones, it just flows out of you, and it kind of goes in the direction it's supposed to, as opposed to being forced in a particular way. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. You can't force the situation. You just kind of have to let it write itself, and then just see where it veers off to.
Any particular documentarian you derived inspiration from, or somebody that inspired you, or a particular film maybe that made you want to make a documentary?
You know what? On this one, I kind of just shot from the hip.
Nice.
I gathered the information. I interviewed a bunch of people. I got a great team together from the University of Advancing Technology with my right-hand man, Jordan, and was able to compose this film and have people see it and see what they think. So.
Very nice. Do you have any other appearances scheduled already, or nothing beyond PFF at this point?
No, you know what? We're going to be in Miami next for the Mindy International Film Festival over in Miami. Then we're going to head off to Virginia to the Christian Film Festival, and then we have a little film festival over off in LA.
Fascinating. So, man, you have a full slate ahead of you. It sounds pretty exciting, man. The gears are turning, indeed.
The gears are turning, and you know, at the end of the day, it's just I just want to bring awareness to what's going on in the world, and you know, as far as like being conspiracy theory, I wanted to completely stay away from that. So
there are plenty of those out there floating around on the internet, I tell you.
Yeah, and the question's left up to you. You know, is it chance, coincidence, or prophecy?
Very intriguing. So we always like to finish it off, being a horror show and everything, with some sort of film-based question. Is there a religiously charged horror film that you remember seeing at some point that really just kind of stuck with you and kind of scared you, perhaps?
Gosh, of course.
We know the one, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I made one, but the one that really sticks with me most is probably Children of the Corn.
Interesting. I was thinking you were going to say Exorcist, possibly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way, man. I mean, having these kids form this religion where there's no adults allowed, and they use adults as sacrifices.
I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so you're speaking my language, man.
Yeah, so Children of the Corn, other than that, yeah, I think that's kind of puts the nail in that coffin.
Yeah, and they've made so many of those. I mean, how many nails in that coffin at this point? Over a dozen, I think, and they're working on a new one right now as we speak. So which installment did you like best? Have you seen, obviously, the original with Linda Hamilton?
Yes.
Did you see the most recent on the Sci-Fi Channel that they did?
I totally did. Yeah, and I can appreciate what they're trying to do, but for me, the Linda Hamilton version, it scares the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, indeed. And that's the thing, like, religion, I think, in any type of form can be used improperly. It doesn't matter if it's a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim or whatever. Extreme people will gravitate towards being extreme. I don't think there's any one religion in particular that is just all bad. There's no chance. Bad people are bad people at the end of the day, and that is scary. So
that's the scary part. Yeah, you got some good people that are trying to be good people, that they are bad people. So.
Indeed. So I got to send a grande gracias for talking with us about The Final Resolution, Brian Ronalds' new documentary that premiered here at the Phoenix Film Festival 2016. And thanks again for having the time to talk to us, man. It was wonderful.
What the biggest question is what scares you the most?
And so where can people keep up through social media and through websites and stuff about the further showings of this film, maybe when it could possibly be hitting VOD or something of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to www.thefinalresolution.com and then find us on Facebook.
Excellent. Simple as that, guys. So, gracias, and I look forward to covering more of this fantastically frightening festival with you as the days go on. So until more coverage comes at you, remember, stay scared. Woo! Religion's scary sometimes.